Hey everyone, I'm Ian McCarthy of Lifting for Life and No Bullshit Bodybuilding, and I would like to welcome you to the not new but improved Lifting for Life Q&A series, in which I answer your questions on video in less or more than 5 minutes. Typically more when I say it will be less, so I'm not going to do time limits anymore. Also, for those of you who might be curious, this is the camera from the good old days of me filming in front of the bookcase. Actually,
oh my goodness.
Alright, so this video was going to be about the potential benefits or need for avoidance of ingestion of dietary fat post-workout, given a study which Brad Schoenfeld posted on Facebook recently, in which really have difficulty saying ingestion of a certain amount of fat post-workout resulted in reduced anabolic signaling relative to the signaling which was shown in the group which ingested less fat than that. Unfortunately, I've not been able to read that study yet, so what I'm going to do is answer a question, and to provide some additional context, I asked folks about this on Facebook earlier today. I'm going to answer the question which received the second greatest number of likes, and which I also think is a valuable question. So, this comes from Christian Hernandez, who asks, do you have to get strong in order to gain muscle? I think we have to note two things initially. First of all, what it means to be strong is subjective, and I don't think it would be particularly valuable to get into an extensive discussion of what it means to be strong, given that's not the question which was asked. And I'm thinking it's subjective in the sense of, is the person who can bench press 225 for 1 rep strong, or is the person who can bench press 405 for 1 rep strong? But there's also even more of a gray area in the sense of, do we mean strength in terms of 1 rep max on certain lifts? Do we mean strength endurance? Do we mean strength in terms of a 12 rep max on a flat dumbbell press, etc.? I do think we can get around a lot of this by restating the question as something like, do you have to maximize strength, however you would define it, in order to maximize hypertrophy? And I think I think the answer is no, because hypertrophy isn't the only component of strength. Indeed, there's some controversy in the scientific community about whether or not there's any genuine correlation between muscle size and strength, or if there's a correlation, an apparent correlation there, but not one that's actually indicative of a causal relationship. And my view is that it's overwhelmingly likely there's a genuine relationship there, but it isn't the only determinant. It isn't as if your strength on squats increases by, your 1 rep max strength on a squat increases by 15%, and that entails an exact 15% increase in muscle size of all of the muscles involved in moving the joints involved in a squat. So, I think if we back up and ask the question of what it is one needs to do to gain muscle, I really think putting aside mechanistic questions that are way outside of the scope of my knowledge, and indeed I'm not really convinced anyone has a thorough and comprehensive and accurate answer when it comes to hypertrophic mechanisms, but I think it's relatively uncontroversial that provided you perform a certain minimum number of hard sets for a muscle group in a time period, let's use a training week as the example, and your nutrition interventions, or let's just say your diet, is appropriate, then you will gain muscle. Number of hard sets, appropriate nutrition, and some form of increase in hypertrophic stimulus, load increasing, number of reps increasing, rep tempo changing, range of motion increasing, etc. And I don't see any of that as naturally entailing or requiring that you get as strong as possible. Because notice that when you think about everything I just said, which is probably incomplete, but fairly complete, that doesn't entail the level of practice of whatever lift it might be that you're thinking about, which would be required to maximize your strength on that lift. So again, in short, I think not, because hypertrophy is not the only determinant of strength. And I think that you can do everything you need to do to gain muscle and probably even maximize the muscle mass you can carry while not maximizing your 1 rep max on a squat, on a bench, maximizing the weight you can use for 15 reps on an incline dumbbell press, etc. Because, again, you can meet this minimum threshold of what is required to generate hypertrophy while using an interesting example like muscle confusion type training, which would be probably the way to absolutely minimize strength adaptations in practice, can still produce hypertrophy. So no. The answer is unequivocally no, and that's it, and there's no nuance. So thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next time.